Hey there, fourth graders. So we are now in our unit all about measurement. Measurement is something that we use a lot, and measurement conversions are also something that we use a lot. So this is a really important unit because everything that we cover in this unit from measurement conversions, and area and perimeter, this is all stuff that is very applicable in real life, whether you end up doing a job that involves a lot of math or not. This is something that I use a lot when I'm cooking. This is something that my husband uses a lot when he's building things. This is just something that is used way more than you might realize. So it's very important. But the good news is you don't have to have all of this memorized. You guys notice that the sheet that I have right here says grade 4 FSA mathematics reference sheet. You will actually have this sheet, this exact sheet, in your book that has your FSA in it. So you will be given this sheet for FSA. You do not have to have it memorized. You'll also see that I linked this sheet to the very top of the page where you found this video, and you can actually print that out, and I would recommend printing that out because you can use this as you're working through your lessons. You do not have to have them memorized. I sort of have them memorized, and then I'm like, but I'm not 100% sure. Some of them I remember really well. Others I honestly forget a lot. So it's important that you know you don't have to have this memorized. We're going to go over how to do the different types of measurement conversions, all right? But you will be given this reference sheet on FSA. You have been given this reference sheet right here on this exact same Google Doc where you found this video. It's right at the top, so print that out, use it, and that should help you with measurement conversions. But again, this is something you definitely want to know how to do because you use it a lot, okay? So we're going to start out with, these are customary measurements, and then you'll see we have metric measurements. Now, customary measurements and metric measurements are both measuring the same thing. These measurements right up here, feet, inches, yards, and miles, are similar to meters, centimeters, and kilometers. The customary measurements are how we measure things in the United States. Metric is used in most of the rest of the world. Okay, so we use the customary measurements in the United States. So if you are measuring something, you're going to be measuring it by like feet or inches or yards or miles, right? If you see a speed limit, it's in miles per hour. But if you were to go over to England, the speed limit would be measured in kilometers per hour. And they talk about kilometers a lot. Even with the social distancing stuff that's been happening with COVID, you know, we stay 3 feet, at least 3 feet or at least 6 feet away from somebody else. And in most of the rest of the world, it's measured in meters, at least 1 meter or at least 2 meters away from everybody else. So but they are measuring the same thing. These right here are measurements of capacity, which means how much something can hold. Okay, so we use ounces, cups, pints, quarts, and gallons in the United States, but most of the rest of the world is using liters and milliliters. And then measurements of weight are down here at the bottom for each one. And so you can see it's like they're even lined up exactly the same. Measurements of weight in the United States, we use ounces, pounds, and tons. But most of the rest of the world, they're using milligrams, grams, and kilograms. Okay, so again, it's measuring the same thing. We're going to talk about measurement conversions for both. You will not have to go from customary to metric. So you aren't going to have to go from pounds to grams. That's not something that we do, okay? We're simply going within the realm of customary or within the realm of metric. All right, so we're going to start out with customary measures of distance. Customary measures of distance. So we can see on here, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. 1 mile is the same thing as 5,280 feet. And it's also the same thing as 1,760 yards, okay? So you can notice that these measurements on the left-hand side of the chart are bigger than the measurements on the right, right? If 1 foot, this is like a ruler. 1 ruler has 12 inches. So I'm taking one big ruler and I split it up into 12 pieces to have those 12 inches. All right. The same thing if I have a yardstick, which is like those really long rulers, that yardstick would be 3 regular size rulers or 3 feet long. Okay. So when we're looking at that, it's important that we know which one is the bigger measurement and which one is the smaller measurement. All right. And this can help us. Everything on the left is bigger than everything on the right. And when we go from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, we're going to use multiplication to help us to convert. Big to small, we multiply. And then we go from smaller units to bigger units, we divide. All right? So big to small, we multiply. Notice I've made like a multiplication symbol with my arms. And then we go from small to big, we divide. So let's look at a few examples. All right, I'm going to put my paper right here, so I'm looking at my measurement conversions with me. Again, I'm going to stick within the customary conversions for length, okay? So if I have 3 feet, and it's almost always abbreviated, so knowing these abbreviations is good, and I want to know how many inches that is. I want to know how many inches are in 3 feet. Feet is bigger, inches is smaller, big to small, I multiply. So I take this number that they gave me, 3, and I times it by the number over here, by the amount of inches. Okay, so 3 times 12 is 36. So 3 feet is the same thing as 36 inches. Okay, let's look at another example. If I have 2 miles and I want to know how many yards that is, 2 miles, and I want to know how many yards that is. Miles are bigger than yards, so big to small, I multiply. So I'm going to do 2 times, and then I'm going to look at how many yards are in a mile. 1,760. 2 times 1,760. Well, I'm going to stack that because I don't know how to do that without stacking it, right? That's a little tricky. All right, so I'm going to multiply that times 2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 6 is 12. Regroup my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So 2 miles is the same thing as 3,520 yards. Okay? Let's look at a few examples where I'm going from a smaller unit to bigger unit. So small to big, I divide. All right? So if I said I have 48 inches, and I want to know how many feet that is, 48 inches to feet, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look back at my measurement conversion chart, but this time because I'm going from smaller to bigger, I'm going to divide. So I'm going to take 48, and I'm going to divide that by 12. 48 divided by 12. Well, I know 12, 24, 36, 48. 12 times 4 is 48. So that would equal 4 feet. It's the same thing as 48 inches. And sometimes when you get your height measurement, they'll give it to you in just inches. But if you're like, no, I want to know how many feet tall I am, right? Or like if you go to an amusement park and they say you have to be at least 52 inches to ride this ride, you want to know how many feet tall that is and see if you're tall enough to ride it, right? So that would be another example of where we would use that, okay? So again, small to big, we divide. Big to small, we multiply, and we just use the numbers that are right here. We use the numbers they give us and the numbers on the chart. And that's all there is to it, guys. You're just going to find the row that has the same 2 words as what you're looking for in it, and you're going to use that number that it gives you and the number that the problem gives you. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go over how to do this with capacity, and then we'll go over how to do it with weight, and we're also going to go over it with metric. All right, and so stay tuned for our next video.